The silence that filled the grand ballroom felt heavier than the marble walls surrounding it. Every chair remained empty, every crystal glass untouched, every carefully wrapped gift table painfully bare. The staff stood quietly along the edges of the room, avoiding eye contact with the man sitting alone in the center. Ethan Ashford, once celebrated as one of the world's youngest billionaire CEOs, stared at the giant birthday cake that had been prepared with extraordinary care. 50 candles flickered gently, their tiny flames reflecting in his eyes, reminding him of every dream that had once burned just as brightly. 3 years earlier, a devastating helicopter accident had left him paralyzed from the chest down. Since then, the business empire he had built had slowly slipped into the hands of executives who smiled in meetings while secretly waiting for him to become irrelevant. Friends disappeared. Relatives stopped calling unless they wanted something. Invitations stopped arriving. Even those who had promised never to leave slowly drifted away, convinced that a man in a wheelchair was no longer useful to them. The event planner nervously checked her watch for the 10th time. "Sir, perhaps the guests are delayed because of traffic." Ethan forced a smile that convinced no one. Deep inside, he already knew the truth. There would be no traffic. There would be no guests. Every invitation had been politely declined over the past week with excuses ranging from urgent business meetings to unexpected family emergencies. Some people had not even bothered to answer. His own board members had sent flowers instead of coming in person. The flowers now stood against the wall like silent witnesses to betrayal. As another minute passed, one of the employees quietly approached. "Mr. Ashford, would you like us to remove the cake?" He looked at the enormous birthday cake for a long moment before shaking his head. "No. Leave it. Maybe hope deserves a few more minutes." Across town, life looked very different for Daniel Carter. Unlike Ethan, Daniel owned nothing except an aging pickup truck, a tiny rented apartment, and an endless supply of determination. Every morning before sunrise, he delivered groceries, repaired broken furniture whenever he could find customers, and spent every remaining moment raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily. Since losing his wife to cancer 4 years earlier, Daniel had become both mother and father, learning to braid hair through online videos, pack school lunches with little money, and hide his own tears whenever Lily asked if mommy could still see them from heaven. That afternoon, Daniel had promised Lily a simple birthday picnic at the city park. It wasn't anyone's birthday, but Lily loved pretending ordinary days were celebrations because, as she often said, waiting for special days takes too long. As they walked through the park carrying homemade sandwiches, Lily noticed an elderly gardener struggling to lift several heavy flower pots. Without hesitation, she handed her sandwich to her father and ran over. "Can we help?" The old man smiled warmly. "You're stronger than you look." Daniel laughed. "She gets that from her mother." After helping the gardener finish his work, the grateful man handed Lily a small bouquet of fresh white lilies. "My wife loved these," he whispered. "Take them." Lily hugged the flowers tightly. "They're beautiful." Moments later, they passed a large electronic billboard announcing, "Happy 50th birthday, Ethan Ashford." Ashford Global celebrates its visionary founder. Lily tilted her head. "Daddy, birthdays are supposed to have people smiling." Daniel glanced at the enormous smiling photo of Ethan displayed on the screen. "I suppose they are. Do you think he's happy today?" Daniel shrugged. "I hope so." Unknown to either of them, a local radio station had just reported that Ethan's extravagant birthday celebration was taking place at the luxurious Ashford Grand Hotel only a few miles away. Curious callers joked about how impossible it would be for ordinary people even to step inside. Lily continued walking in silence before asking a question that stopped Daniel in his tracks. What if nobody came? He looked down. What do you mean? What if everyone forgot his birthday? Daniel smiled gently. I don't think people forget billionaires. But Lily wasn't convinced. Sometimes they forget lonely people. Those simple words lingered in Daniel's mind for the rest of the afternoon. After finishing their picnic, they stopped at a neighborhood bakery where Lily insisted on spending part of the little allowance she had saved. I want one cupcake. Daniel laughed. Only one? Yes. For you? She shook her head. For someone who might not get one today. Daniel couldn't explain why those words touched him so deeply. Maybe because he remembered the loneliness after his wife's funeral when the visitors gradually disappeared. Maybe because he knew how quickly the world moved on from another person's pain. As evening approached, father and daughter drove past the Ashford Grand Hotel on their way home. Luxury cars were expected to line the entrance, yet the driveway looked strangely empty. A few photographers stood outside, whispering among themselves before packing away their cameras. Lily pressed her face against the window. Daddy. Daniel slowed the truck. I think nobody came. He looked toward the grand entrance where only hotel employees stood waiting. For nearly a full minute, neither of them spoke. Then Lily quietly held up the bouquet the gardener had given her. Can we give him these? Daniel hesitated. Security at places like this usually didn't welcome people dressed in faded jeans and work boots. They probably won't let us inside. But what if they do? He sighed, knowing he had already lost the argument. Okay. Moments later, they approached the entrance. Several security guards immediately stepped forward. I'm sorry, sir. This is a private event. Daniel nodded respectfully. I understand. My daughter just wanted to wish Mr. Ashford a happy birthday. One guard almost smiled. I'm afraid that's not possible. Lily stepped forward holding out the flowers. They're free. The guard looked confused. What? We don't have presents, only flowers. Before anyone could respond, the hotel's general manager happened to overhear the conversation. Having watched Ethan spend the past 2 heartbreaking hours alone, he hesitated before making an unexpected decision. Let them in. The guards looked surprised. Sir? Just let them in. Daniel couldn't believe it. We won't stay long. The manager smiled sadly. I think, you'll be the first guests he's had tonight. As the massive ballroom doors slowly opened, Ethan looked up, expecting another employee. Instead, he saw a tired single father wearing dusty work boots and an oversized jacket. Beside him stood a little girl clutching white lilies with both hands and smiling as though she had walked into the happiest party in the world. The room became completely silent. Neither Daniel nor Lily realized that every employee had stopped working to watch what would happen next. Lily walked straight toward Ethan without fear. Happy birthday, mister. She gently placed the flowers on his lap. I hope you're not lonely anymore. Ethan stared at the little bouquet for several long seconds. His hands trembled slightly as tears filled his eyes. After hours of pretending that the empty room didn't hurt him, one innocent sentence shattered every wall he had built around his heart. For the first time in years, the billionaire who had everything except genuine human connection could no longer hold back his emotions. And no one in that ballroom could have imagined that this small act of kindness from a struggling single father and his daughter was about to change all three of their lives forever.